Okay, the wind is high today down at Bannock here in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. As you can see, we have a half-mast flag today. It's a heavy one today. The flags are at half-mast in remembrance, not for soldiers, not for military at least. It is to mark a day of mourning here in Nova Scotia this morning of May 7th, 2026. And, remembrance is what it is. But mornings are best for mourning and grieving and healing. And today is in remembrance of the shootings, the really, really terrible events of years ago now. The shootings, the killer of the county, the fella. We won't even speak his name into the world again. We do. In remembrance, it's important to use names, and it's important to forgive and as much as we can, and forget as much as we need to. But of course, it's the killer. The dentists will call him the denture person. I don't like speaking names that should not be spoken too much, but today is a day of mourning for the mass killings. It happened here in Nova Scotia. I want to say 7 years ago, ? 7 or 8. Something like that. Tragedy it was, and certainly happened. Wish that it didn't, but it did. The Picto killer, I guess some people call him whatever. He is gone, right? He did the thing where he committed the crime and then escaped in the least honorable way that you can think of, avoiding consequences on Earth here by exiting, choosing to do so. He took the coward's way, avoiding any prosecution, avoiding, justice, but not really, because true justice is handed down by God, not by man. And there's a special place in HE double hockey sticks for murderers. And Nova Scotia strong is a thing. We are. And the strength of Canada is its history, certainly. And the strength and character of a person living, that is remembering, honoring the past, but remembering and not forgetting, forgiving, yes, but not forgetting. So, in case you're wondering, that is why flags are at half-mast today in Nova Scotia and other places in Canada too. It is a special day to honor our paramilitary people, be RCMP and HRPD, certainly them too. Certainly paramedics, certainly all of our government people who keep us safe on the daily, and that includes doctors, nurses, You know, there's a reason why there's metal detectors in some of the hospitals now. I wish it weren't necessary, but these days, it is. You know, it is gross to see, but necessary in this moment in time. And that's a sad thing, but safety first, right? It's okay to be vigilant. It's necessary. Not evil. Vigilance is SMRT. And we are smart people here in Nova Scotia. Smart, wise people all over Canada. You know, we do as we must. The royal we. Nova Scotia just happens to be one of the oldest places in Canada, as are, you know, New Brunswick and Newfoundland, especially. Newfoundland, wow, super old, right? The Vikings were there a long, long time ago. They just kind of showed up and were like, hey, we're here, you know, we're going to do as we do. And there was a fight, of course, between the indigenous people then and the Vikings. You know, Vikings tend to show up and pillage and do their thing and then run away. They don't running away, they just leave when they feel like it. But they, you know, leave traces of themselves as they do. Not in a nice way, but just the nature of their people was to do that. So, you know, their DNA is around here, Newfoundland especially. And, you know, the settlers that came in the 1600s, you know, Port Royal is a thing, certainly, you know, all of those ancient places, the settlements, you know, our country was literally founded by people showing up from all kinds of places, but mostly they were friendly. The French Acadians, the Scots, you know, the British Scots are my roots here in Nova Scotia, and my ancient roots in New Brunswick are Acadian too, and I know who I am. Both of those ancient Acadian families here are, you know, Métis and Mi'kmaq. In Nova Scotia it's different, but New Brunswick is those two. And then my ancient roots here are Scottish, of course, and some German in there, and a little bit of British. My great-grandmother, my grandmother on my mother's side was a Landel. And my grandfather here in Nova Scotia, he passed away a long time ago, but he was Harold Mackay Ketty. Mackay as in McKay, as in the McKay Bridge and stuff. All engineers, and none of that is coincidence. The Angus MacDonald Bridge, I've got a family member named Angus. I'm not even going to be too specific about that one, but, you know, it is what it is. A lot of old families here. A lot of history, a lot of, you know, Canada has a rich history, but, you know, honoring the indigenous people is just honoring ourselves. I am, and we are hybrids, but, you know, there are those around that are purebloods of all types of bands, and, you know, the Métis being a northern Quebec one. I was born in Quebec, you know, more out of happenstance than anything, but, you know, our roots are easily traced, especially in 2026. You could take a DNA test if you want, but I prefer not to. Why? Quantum reasons. I just don't need to know. I've never taken an IQ test. Meh. No thank you. DNA test? Also no thank you. Could I? Sure. But some things are better left unsaid, and some truths are better left believed, right? Out of faith and knowledge than tested by science. That's kind of a point of distinction, that I prefer to, you know what I know because I know. And believe what I believe because I know, right? Rather than needing to prove it, I just know. I know who I am based on my faith, I guess, and people are... You can prove it sometimes, but again, some things are better left unsaid. And I'm going to leave her there. I'm going to zoom in on the flag as I like to do. There she is. flapping in the wind at half-mast here in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Lake Bannock, which is a native name. Of course it is. Micmac is Mi'kmaq. The mall not far from here. Mi'kmaq, Micmac Lake, right? I grew up on the Kennebecasis River in Quispamsis in southern New Brunswick, just outside of Saint Jean or Saint John, right? All these puzzle pieces fit together. They just do. So if we can trust in the wisdom of our leaders, but more importantly, the wisdom of our collective people, just trust in it. Everything's going to be okay. Why? We have it under control. Whoever we needs to be. And yeah, I'm a cog in that machine. On purpose. Well, I've worked for the government for quite a long time, didn't I? Yep. Founding member of the Mental Health Commission of Canada. Yep. That was back in 2005. 21 years ago. It is what it is. So, questioning, okay. Belief, better. Hope, essential. Faith in the people that run this country, well, yeah. I have it. Why? Parce que? Pourquoi? Huh? Qu'est-ce qui se passe? What's going on? Well, lots of things, but we, the royal we, I'll say that again. We have it under control? No, not really, because the world's very chaotic. But faith and belief in mankind and humankind and the leaders that we have, that is essential to a friendly future, and I think we're getting there. The economy is bouncing, the war is warring, as it will. Empires are empiring. A fight for control, a fight for whatever. But Canada, well, we tend to be peaceful and, not passive, certainly, but SMRT. All right. I'm out of here. On my morning walk, as I do. 13 minutes seems fair. Signing off. Leger, whatever. Bye.